Good evening on the East Coast. On the West Coast, it's good afternoon. I am Andrea Baer, the Executive Director here at Mended Hearts, and we are so excited to have you guys with us today. Today we are joined by Lance Smith to kick off our 2020 leadership training. It's a little different this year, but so is everything else, so we're going to make the best of it. We are doing a virtual leadership training for our 2020 sessions, and we're excited to have you guys here with us. Just a few housekeeping rules. All attendees are in listen-only mode. So if you can't hear me, you probably will be able to read the slides. Check the volume and the audio button on your computer, because that's often the issue, and it'll be a quick fix and you'll be up and running. But use the chat box, which is located on the right side of your screen, to communicate throughout the session. There'll be lots of opportunities to interact and volunteer to join in the conversation, so we really encourage that. You'll have to be able to ask questions, use the same chat box. And the session is going to be interactive and fun, so be prepared, join in. It's not a go to sleep type of session, we promise you. And feel free to share your story and join in the conversation in the chat box with the presenters during the session. So tonight, we are joined by Lance Smith, who is also known as Claysmile. He's the CEO of Claysmile Entertainment, a talent agency of dancers and motivational speakers who focus on exhilarating and inspiring audiences to become the best version of themselves and to enjoy the process. As a published author of several books, his most recent book is Count It All Joy. Lance graduated from the University of Maryland with a degree in accounting. He worked as an auditor for the federal government for over 6 years, and in 2007 he became a CPA. But in 2010, he decided to focus full-time on operating his consulting and performance company, Claysmile Entertainment. Through Claysmile, Lance delivers presentations that exhilarate and inspire people to elevate their level of mental, emotional, physical, and financial health. In addition, he owns an accounting firm called Claysmile Advisors. So we are very excited to have you with us today. And I am going to turn this over to you, and we are gonna get started.
Hey everyone, awesome, great to see you, great to see you. I'm really excited about being here with you guys today. It's gonna be a great time. I'm really grateful for the amazing work that Mended Hearts does and the awesome community that it creates. And I'm just very excited about this session because it's going to be very interactive. We're going to interact a lot. And so in fact, right now, please type into the chat box your name and where you are watching from. Please type into the chat box your name and where you are watching from as we get started. Yes. Type into the chat box your name and where you are watching from. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yes. And so guys, all throughout this session, right, I'm going to be sharing with you some stories and illustrations, and let's make this very interactive. So please promise me that you will play full out. Please promise me that you will type into the chat box your comments, your highlights, your reflections. And you know, by the way, every so often we're going to take a pause, and my friend Jen Fontanilla is going to lead us through a group discussion. All right, so you guys ready? If you're ready, please type into the chat box, yes. If you are ready to begin, please type into the chat box, yes. All right, let's begin with our first story. First story, there's a story about a water carrier who had 2 large pots. Each hung on the ends of a pole, which he carried across his neck. One of the pots had a crack in it, while the other pot was perfect. Each day, at the end of the long walk from the water stream back to the house, the perfect pot always delivered a full portion of water, but the broken pot always delivered only half a pot of water because the other half of its water would always leak out through the crack that was in its side all the way back to the house. This continued on for years, and of course, The perfect pot felt proud of itself. It felt like a high achiever. It felt successful, had very high self-esteem. It felt good about itself. But the broken pot felt ashamed of itself and felt miserable. And one day by the water stream, the broken pot spoke out to the water carrier and said, I'm ashamed of myself because this crack in my side, it causes water to leak out all the way back to your house. I'm no good. I'm inferior. I've been broken. I've been broken by some things that have happened to me in the past. You see, I've been through some bad experiences that have hurt me so much, and now I have all these insecurities, I have all of these issues that are holding me down and holding me back, and I'll never be able to succeed. So you should just destroy me because my life has no meaning and no purpose. And then the water carrier responded to the broken pot and said, did you notice that there were flowers only along your side of the path and not along the other pot side? That is because I've always known about your flaw, and I planted flower seeds all along your side of the path. And each day as we walk back from the water stream, the water that leaks out through the crack in your side waters these flowers. And for years now, I've been able to pick these beautiful flowers to make the world a more beautiful place. Without you being just the way you are, there would not be this beauty to grace the world. I love that story because it's a reminder to us that even the cracks in our lives are there for a reason. Even the cracks in our lives, even the flaws, the imperfections, the challenges, the struggles, the obstacles, even the cracks in our lives are there for a reason. Everything happens for a reason, although often we don't understand what that reason is as we're going through the process. But one day we will be able to look back and clearly understand that it was all part of a beautiful plan. One day we will be able to look back and see the bigger picture. And there's always a bigger picture. There's always a bigger picture. Everything that goes on in our life, it's all part of a bigger picture. But one of the most challenging things about life is that often we can't see the picture because we're standing in the frame. If you agree, type into the chat box, yes. If you agree, type into the chat box, yes. Often in life, we can't see the picture because we're standing in the frame. But one day, we will be able to look back and clearly see the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is a beautiful picture. If you agree, type into the chat box, yes. Let me share with you another story. It's a story about a store owner who put a large sign on top of the front door of his store. And the sign read, "Puppies for sale." And almost immediately, a little boy comes into the store full of enthusiasm and asked, "How much are the puppies?" The store owner replied, "Anywhere between $30 to $50 per puppy." The little boy dug deep into his pocket and he pulled out $1.37. And he says, "All I have is $1.37, but can I see the puppies?" The store owner smiled and then whistled. And out from the kennel came a group of puppies running down the aisle of the store. But there was one puppy that was lagging behind all the others because it was limping. It was limping along. It was limping. The little boy noticed that puppy that was limping and asked, "What's wrong with that puppy?" The store owner explained how the veterinarian had examined that puppy and had noticed that that puppy was missing a hip socket. So it would always be lame. It would always limp. The little boy got excited and said, "That's the puppy that I want to buy." Store owner said, "No. You don't want to buy that puppy. That puppy limps. That puppy has issues. In fact, I plan to just give away that puppy for free because that puppy does not have any value." Little boy got upset and said, "That puppy is as valuable as all the other puppies. And I'll pay you full price for that puppy. I'll give you $1.37 now, and I'll pay you 50 cents each week until that puppy is fully paid for." But again, the store owner expressed concern and said, "Look, I really don't think you're going to enjoy that puppy because that puppy can't run and it can't jump and it can't play with you like the other puppies can." And then at that moment, the little boy bent down and picked up his left pant leg and he showed the store owner left leg, which was crippled. It was twisted. It was held together by a metal rod. And he says to the store owner, "I can't run well myself either. And that puppy needs someone who can understand." Love that story because it's a reminder to us that imperfect is perfect. Imperfect is perfect. If you agree, type yes in the chat box. Imperfect is perfect. We are perfect just the way we are. Now, of course, we must continue to learn and grow so that we can become the best versions of ourselves. But at every stage in our development, we are perfect just the way we are. Our imperfections make us humble. Our imperfections make us relatable. Our imperfections make us compassionate. Our imperfections give us a unique ability to add a special value to the world. Imperfect is perfect. If you agree, type yes in the chat box. You know, this message, it really touches me because just like everyone else, I have certain flaws in my life that tend to weigh me down. And I realize that I constantly need to remind myself that imperfect is perfect. I constantly need to remind myself that it's okay that I struggle with certain issues. It's okay I struggle with certain emotions. It's okay. I have to remind myself that I don't have to wait until I overcome certain issues in order to be happy. I can actually enjoy the process every step of the way. You know, in other words, I don't have to achieve in order to be happy. I can happily achieve. Because really, there is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path. There is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path. You know, I realize that we can truly love the life we have as we build the life we want. We don't have to wait. We can enjoy the process. And you know, I know that at the core of this, though, we have to keep in mind that everything happens for a reason, even though often we don't understand what that reason is. You know, let me share with you this true story. There's a story, true story about a lady running late for work one morning, all because of her daughter taking too long to get ready for school. Now I can imagine she was feeling very angry and frustrated at her daughter for making her late for work. Imagine she was feeling very, very, very angry that she was going to have to arrive at work late this morning, all because of her daughter taking too long to get ready for school. But when she arrived at work that morning, she realized that on this particular morning, it was a very good thing that she arrived late to work, because this morning was Tuesday morning, September the 11th, 2001, and this lady worked in the World Trade Center. If it had not been for her daughter who made her late for work, she would have been in the building when the planes hit. It's amazing how really our problems are really blessings in disguise. So let's not complain about anything, because really our problems can bless our lives in ways that we don't understand. So now let's take a quick pause, and Jen Fontanilla is going to lead us through a group discussion. Please type into the chat box. Let's be very interactive on this.
Let's see. Hey everyone, how's it going? So wonderful to be here with you. I love the energy that you all are displaying in the chat box. I love the interaction. You know, and it's great because I saw different states. I saw Washington, Florida, Alabama, Texas, Idaho. I'm sorry if I missed you. I love that the chat was just scrolling really, really fast. And I love that you know, Constance says she loves the stories. This is awesome. And yes, Laurel, thank you for being here. It's just so wonderful for you all to be here with us. Whether you're over here on the West Coast, I'm actually here in Southern California. So shout out to those who in Rialto, Ventura, and Sonoma County, and everyone else out there in the different parts of the country. Just really, really great that we're all here together for this kickoff. And so I love that you're so inspired by the stories. And you know, I want to just ask you, just put in the chat, have you ever gone through a situation where you looked at one of your flaws and thought that, who am I? Who am I to be able to make an impact on anything or on anybody? And sometimes we shrink back and we think like, oh my goodness, well, who am I to even do anything? So just type in there in the chat if that's something that you've gone through. I'm pretty sure we've all experienced that on some level. Not really? George, you're lucky. You said not really. Definitely, yes. So yeah, there's quite a few of us who have gone through that. And so, you know, I too love the stories that Lance has shared with us in regards to the clay pot and the puppy. And when I think about those stories, I think about how many times have we taken our flaws and we've taken those things and we've internalized it as that we're no good. That we look at our flaws as something that we're not useful, that we're like damaged, or even sometimes it's circumstances that happen to us. And then we feel that we don't have anything to do with it, or we don't have an impact. And as you all know, that's not true. And as we see that has happened in the Clay story, there is something so beautiful about finding the beauty behind the flaws. And if you remember in the clay pot story, the side where the pot had the crack, where the water was leaking, it carved a path that had flowers all over it. And so I want you to think about in your life, what are those things that we've overlooked so easily that you've made an impact? Sometimes we mistaken that those flaws don't serve anybody. And yet, think about how many times, I'm pretty sure, type a yes in the chat. Has this ever happened to you? You take your situation and you share that story with somebody and they realize that they are going through the same thing that you've gone through. How many times has that happened to you? Type a yes. Yes, right? And I think it's so important for us to remember that those moments are there for a purpose and for a reason, because those times of pain at that very moment are turned into purpose. Those times of pain and those flaws that you have gone through and experienced and that made you feel that you were no good has now been turned into purpose and passion. And it's at that moment that we realize, wow, all that pain was for a reason, to help other people. And that's what I love about why you are all here, because that's exactly what you're doing. You are here to help other people, whether it's through the goodness of your own heart, whether if it's through your experience, whether if it's to share your story with somebody else to give them encouragement. That is why we're all here tonight, because this organization has such an impact on so many lives. And so just take that with you. When you think about those flaws, those are imperfections that are so perfect and that you have so much to do with it. And so I love what you're saying in the chat. Like, Eric said, power of a wounded healer. Absolutely. And then Kay said, especially when visiting patients. Sam Day said, to give people hope. Absolutely. And so as we're going through this tonight, and even afterwards, take that with you to remember that those flaws serve such a big purpose, bigger than us. And when we realize how much of an impact it makes on other people, let that be the thing that drives you to keep going, that drives you to realize, hey, this is actually pretty cool. Because type a no in the chat if like, can anybody relate to perfection? No, nobody can relate to perfection. In fact, when we display authenticity and vulnerability, that's what our human hearts connect to, not perfection. And so let that be another thing that drives you to be at ease and at calmness, because nobody can strive for that, because nobody can attain it. So let that sit with you, knowing that everything, that whether it's the perfect things and the imperfect things, those are the qualities and characteristics that make you so amazing and such a huge impact on other people's lives. So yes, thank you. Appearance of perfection is off-putting. Holly said that. I totally agree. And Rick also added, nobody is perfect. Absolutely. So remember that when you're having a bad day or you think you messed up, don't forget you all live here on planet Earth and we are all human. So thank you for participating. I love what you guys are all saying. Without further ado, we're going to go back to Lance and he's going to take us into the next section.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Jen. Awesome. Wow, and I love that comment. One of the comments that really stood out to me was what Eric said about the power of the wounded healer. So powerful. Amazing how, having that shift of perspective really makes a difference in our lives, I want to share with you this story. It's a story about a little boy out in the Midwest who wanted to see an eagle fly. So he gets a pair of binoculars and goes out to a large open field and he's watching and finally he spots an eagle. And the eagle is flying higher and higher and higher. Then all of a sudden the eagle stops in midair and it begins to fall and flap and fall and flap and fall and flap. Finally it disappears out of sight. And the little boy says to himself, what happened to the eagle? Did someone shoot the eagle? I didn't hear a gun. And the little boy walks for about a mile in order to find where the eagle had landed. And finally he found the eagle. The eagle is laid down, nose in the dirt. The eagle is dead. And the little boy says to himself, what killed the eagle? Little boy turns the eagle over, and there, affixed to the eagle's chest, is a weasel, a little animal. And the weasel has bitten into the heart of the eagle. And the little boy says to himself, now I see what happened to the eagle. The eagle had picked up a weasel and did not let it go. And that's very symbolic to our lives, because every day of our lives, we all pick up weasels. And weasels come in many different forms. There are weasels in the form of negative thoughts, weasels in the form of bad habits, weasels in the form of unhealthy addictions, weasels in the form of fears and worries and stress and frustration and anger and insecurities. We all pick up weasels. And if we don't drop the weasels will drop us. If you agree, type yes in the chat box. Drop the weasels. Let go of the weasels. Let go of things that are trying to eat at you. Let go of things that are trying to separate you from your source of peace and joy. Let them go, because either you drop them or they will drop you. I'm so excited about being here today, because we're going to really focus on the power of perspective, being able to change our perspective. You know, I think about certain flaws that tend to weigh me down, and how by changing my perspective, it's made a huge difference in my life. I want to share with you something very personal that may not seem to be such a big deal, but to me, it was really weighed on me. So, you know, as was mentioned in the bio, you know, I've graduated from college and, you know, became a CPA, a certified public accountant. But I want to share something very personal that I used to be very embarrassed about, but no longer am I embarrassed about it. So I want to share it with you. You see, although I am a professional, I'm still in the process of overcoming reading challenges. I had severe reading problems and speech problems when I was growing up. And although things have improved, I'm still in the process of overcoming those reading challenges. Now, I'm not embarrassed to admit it, because I realize that in order to overcome a problem, we must embrace the struggle. We must embrace the struggle. If you agree, say I. We must embrace the struggle. And I realize that it's okay if some people look down on me. It's okay if some people think of me as being a little slow or dumb. It's okay, because I realize now that other people's opinions of me do not have to become my reality. I realize now that my value as a human being always stays the same, regardless of how other people treat me. To really make this point clear, let me share with you this illustration. A teacher one time showed this to me, and it really impacted me. How much is this worth? Right? Type in the chat box. How much is this worth? $1, right? What if I take this dollar bill and crumble it up and throw it on the floor and stomp on it? How much is it worth now? It's still worth $1. Regardless of how I just treated this dollar bill, its value stayed the same. I crumbled it up, I threw it on the floor, I stomped on it, I put dirt on it, but yet its value stayed the same. The same thing goes with you, me, and all of the human beings. Regardless of how other people treat us, regardless of what other people think about us or say about us or do to us, regardless of whatever happens to us in our lives, our value stays the same, because our value is something that the world did not give to us. And so therefore, it's something that the world cannot take away. If you agree, type yes in the chat box. It's amazing how just by changing our perspective, our whole life changes. Even a slight shift in our perspective makes a huge change in our life. To really make the point clear, let's do this group activity. This will blow your mind. Everyone, please do this with me. Everyone, please take your right index finger and point it straight up towards the ceiling. It has to be above your head, above your head, above your head. Now look up at the ceiling and imagine that on the ceiling there's a clock face. Now rotate your finger in a clockwise motion. Go clockwise, clockwise motion, clockwise motion. Now continue that same motion, but now bring your arm down, all the way down, so it's below your chin. So you're looking down at your finger. And realize now, you're no longer going clockwise. You're now going counterclockwise, aren't you? Isn't that cool? Let's try that again. Clockwise motion, and bring your arm all the way down, and realize now you're going counterclockwise. So somebody tell me, our finger did not change and the motion of our finger did not change. What was the only thing that changed? Please type it into the chat box. Type it into the chat box. What was the only thing that changed? And Jen, are you able to see the chat box?
Yep.
Okay, so can you read to me some of the responses in the chat box?
Yeah, we have Marianne, Kay, Julie, they're saying perspective. Larry said valuables change over time, perception, perspective. You guys are on it.
Yes, that's right. Yes, perception, our perspective. Yes, that was the only thing that changed. So here's the lesson. Here's the point. Here's the message. Here it is. The only thing that changed was perspective. And so here it is. Whenever you're feeling sad about anything. Now, when I say sad, I don't mean like extreme cases of depression. That's like a medical situation. I just mean everyday sadness. Whenever you're feeling sad, whenever you're feeling down about anything, always ask yourself, what else can this mean? What else can this mean? What's another perspective in which I can view this situation? What's another way in which I could look at this circumstance? What else can this mean? I guarantee you, asking yourself that question is a very useful tool that can help us to overcome challenges. It can help us to manage our emotions. It can help us. You know, it's amazing how in every situation we have to ask ourselves, what else can this mean? Is this the end or is this the beginning? It's all a matter of perspective. Am I being punished or am I being rewarded? It's all a matter of perspective. Is this a problem or is this a personal development exercise that is designed to prepare me to achieve my purpose and my destiny in life? It's all a matter of perspective. If you agree, say aye. Yes, problems are just personal development exercises that are designed to prepare us to achieve our purpose and our destiny in life. You know, as I think back over my childhood, I realized that in a way, I'm grateful for my bullies because my bullies strengthened me and prepared me to achieve my purpose and my destiny in life. The emotional abuse that they put me through was really a gift. It tore me down for a moment, but over time it built me up like gold, purified through fire. If you agree, say yes. You know, it's so amazing how by changing our perspective, our whole life changes. And so it's so important to really think about what we're thinking about. It's so important to realize that every day there's weasels that come into our lives, and we must drop the weasels by replacing the negative thoughts with positive thoughts. We must drop the weasels. Because it's so amazing how negative thought patterns, negative perspectives can really hinder us from truly living our best life, especially the emotion of anger. I want to share with you a story about how anger can end up really hindering us from our blessings and blocking our blessings. There's a story about an old rich man who throws a very big party in the backyard of his mansion. And in the backyard, there's a large swimming pool. And in the swimming pool, there's alligators. And at one point during the party, the old rich man gets on the microphone and he says, if any young man can swim from one side of this pool to the other side of the pool, I will give that young man one of three things. Either $100,000 in cash, or 2 of my fancy cars, or one of my vacation homes anywhere around the world. At that moment, there's a large splash, and everybody turns and looks at the pool, and they see this young man in the pool swimming. Alligators are rushing towards him, but he's able to dodge by the alligators. It's amazing. He's dodging the alligators, and he's swimming, and finally he gets to the edge of the pool, and he jumps out of the pool. Everybody cheers. It's amazing that he survived. And then the old rich man comes over to the young man, and he says, well done. So tell me, which prize do you want? Do you want $100,000 in cash? Young man, full of anger, says no. Old rich man then says, okay, well then do you want 2 of my fancy cars? But again, full of anger, the young man says no. Old rich man then says, okay, well then you must want the third option. You must want one of my vacation homes anywhere around the world. But again, to everyone's surprise, the young man again says no, full of anger. Now at this moment, the old rich man is like confused, and he's like, well, okay, well, wait, those were the 3 options. Well, then tell me, which prize? I mean, like, what do you want then? What in the world do you want? And full of anger, the young man says, I just want to know who pushed me in that pool. It's a cute story. It's a silly story. But please don't miss the moral of the story. The moral of the story is this. That young man was so very angry about what had happened to him in the past. He was so very angry about being pushed into that difficult situation. He was so angry about what had happened to him that his anger blocked him from receiving the gifts and the prizes and the rewards of the present moment. You know, it's a silly story, but often we ourselves can do the same thing. Often we can allow the past to hinder our present moment. You know, there's a saying that goes, if you live in the past, you die in the present. And it's so true. We have to let go of the baggage of the past. We have to let it go because it will end up hindering our present moment. We have to realize that no matter what our situation is, there's a piece of fortune inside of every misfortune. And we have to focus on it. We have to embrace it. Because it's amazing how we have to let go of the weasels so that we can truly fly like an eagle. And at this moment, let's turn it back over to Jen, and she's going to lead us through the next group discussion. Please type into the chat box.
Yeah, so I wanted to just highlight some of the things that were typed in the chat box. I think they were great. When we were going over some of the stories, Sam Day said, overcoming challenges makes us stronger. Absolutely. And I think that's what's so wonderful about the human spirit, when we're able to just fight through it and realize that we're working towards a bigger purpose beyond our current challenges. That's what's so amazing. Because again, going back to the other story, it's like, you never know who you're inspiring. You never know what your challenges are doing to other people, to show us like, wow, I can do it too. I'm able to overcome it because you showed me that you were able to do it. And Rick LeMay said, ignore the bullies. Absolutely. And Rick also said, tell me I can't do something, then step aside and watch me do it. I love that. I mean, nothing greater than somebody who's a fighter that's going to say, hey, you know what, watch me now. And then he said, in the story with the alligator, he said he'll take the 2 cars. I thought that was great. And let me see some other lessons that you guys typed in here. Sam said, live life to its fullest potential in the present because it's too short. Absolutely. And Heather said, so true love finding fortune in a misfortune. Yes, and that's what's so interesting is when we can shift that perspective, that perception. It's kind of like, do you look at the glass half full or half empty? We all have heard that example. And Holly also said, sharing each of our gifts helps others to step into theirs. Absolutely, because you are showing them an example of, hey, I did it, you can do it. And VJ said, can't let the past hold up the future, live in the present. I love it. Thank you guys for sharing your thoughts and your comments in the chat. This is awesome for us to see how you're resonating with this and what you're thinking. And, you know, especially because we can't see you in person. So this is so great. I thank you for your action in the chat box. So I also wanted to just share a story about, you know, what happened to me personally, since Lance has been so gracious to share what's happened to him. You know, several years ago, I unexpectedly got pregnant after a divorce, and it wasn't even with my ex-husband, so it was not the most ideal situation. And I remember just feeling all this guilt, all this shame, and so I got really tired of being in that dark place. Didn't even know, to be honest, if I wanted to keep the child. Happy ending, I did keep him. I did keep the child. But it's really interesting when you're in that situation, you realize you are not thinking with a sound mind and perception. And so what ended up happening, I saw this opportunity at church to volunteer at a homeless shelter. And it's something I had always wanted to do. I don't know why I had always been drawn to it. And so I went. And I thought it was one of those situations where I said, let me just check it out. I'll probably do this one time and then I'll never come back. At least I tried it. I worked that homeless shelter every week throughout the entire duration of my pregnancy. And I'll tell you why. And this goes back to perception. All of a sudden, when I was able to focus on other people's needs, being in the kitchen, cleaning the plates and preparing the food and serving people who had no family to care for them, nobody that wanted to provide warm shelter, food, or any even human interaction, it took away my problems of me focusing on what was there. And my perception shifted to how can I help and serve? And that's what I love about all of you here, is that you have that servant's heart. You have that heart and that passion to help other people, whether it's something that has affected you directly or whether it's something that you've gone through personally. Or maybe you are doing it because a loved one has gone through some difficult times and you're just giving back. But that's what's so beautiful. When you go through those situations, you realize that the purpose is so much bigger than your current problems. And so I just love that you're here to just learn, here to give back, and that when we shift away from all those challenges and how we can be better people, live our best lives, and serve other people, it just makes for such a much more beautiful world. And as you know, during these times, it's exactly what we need. So thank you, Holly. I'm so glad to hear you guys, you know, in the chat saying giving back, paying it forward. Absolutely. And I really commend you all, because it's the people who give back that make this world so amazing, that reinstills hope and faith into the human spirit, especially during times when we don't know what is going on. We don't even know how many things are changing at a given time. And so this is the one thing that I love and I hang on to, that the human spirit of giving and living out purposeful lives, helping others, is something that we can hang on to and be secure in. So thank you again for sharing all your thoughts. I love that you're giving back. And so we are going to move on to the next section, and I'm going to hand it back over to Lance.
Thank you. Wow, Jen, that was amazing. Amazing story, you know, about the power, about how, you know, the gift of giving is better than a gift received, you know, and how as we focus on others, it's amazing how, you know, we realize that we really do rise by lifting others. And, you know, speaking of that, I think about how one of the greatest things about Mended Hearts is the fact that, you know, most of the participants are really volunteers. You know, I heard that there's only 7 staff members and everyone else is a volunteer. And I just think about that spirit of serving is so very beautiful, you know? And Jen, you know, to your point about, you know, how the power of giving, I think about the story, this illustration about 2 men who shared the same hospital room. And one of them was allowed to sit up in his bed for only 1 hour each day in order to drain the fluids off his lungs. His bed was next to the room's only window. The other man, his roommate, had to lay flat on his back at all times. Each day, during that 1 hour period of time in which the man by the window was allowed to sit up in his bed, he would pass the time by looking out the window and describing to his roommate all the beautiful things that were going on outside the window. He described everything with exquisite details, all the nature, all the activity. His roommate loved those descriptions, those creative descriptions. His roommate began to live for those 1 hour periods of time in which his world would just broaden and enliven by all of these creative descriptions that were told to him. This continued on, and, you know, for months. And then one night, the man by the window died peacefully in his sleep. Hospital attendants came in, took the body away, and when it seemed appropriate, the other man asked to be moved next to the window. They honored his request, moved him next to the window, and as soon as possible, he propped himself up on one elbow to take a look for himself out the window, to see for himself all the beautiful things that had been described to him for months. And he was shocked when he saw that the window faced a blank wall. He calls in the nurse and he says, "Nurse, my deceased roommate used to describe for me such beautiful things going on outside this window. I don't understand. This window faces a blank wall." The nurse replied, "That deceased roommate of yours was a blind man, and he wasn't even able to see the blank wall outside the window." Man asked, "Wow, I wonder what would have compelled him to share such beautiful things?" The nurse replied, "He just wanted to cheer you up. He just wanted to inspire you. He just wanted to help you to get through this very difficult period in your life." I love that story. And it makes me think about Jen's story about volunteering. It makes me think about I think over 1,400 Mended Hearts volunteers, how that spirit of service, that gift of giving, and about how it's so amazing how when we give from a true heart of gratitude, when we give from a true heart of compassion and empathy, it's amazing how we truly rise. You know, I think about in that illustration, that blind man, even though he could not see beauty on the outside, he shared the beauty that was inside of him. He shared with others. And what's amazing is that instead of focusing on his own situation, instead of focusing on his own pain and his own problems, he focused on reaching out and trying to help encourage someone else. And in the process of trying to give to others, his cup remained full. It's amazing how, as we pour into the lives of others, our cup stays full and overflows. It's so true that the gift of giving is better than a gift received. Because as we give to others from a sincere heart of gratitude, as we give to others, we remind ourselves that we have more than enough. And it's that sense of abundance that truly makes us come alive. You know, Tony Robbins once said that what makes us happy long-term is not what we get. What we get does not make us happy long-term. What makes us happy long-term is who we become and what we contribute. And I'm grateful for all of the volunteers of Mended Hearts and the way that they contribute to others. I want to ask you in the chat box, you know, all the volunteers of Mended Hearts, please type into the chat box, how long have you been associated with Mended Hearts? Please type that into the chat box. We just want to see, how long have you been associated with Mended Hearts? Please type that into the chat box. You know, it's so amazing. You know, I think about, let me share with you another story. There's a story about, and this is a true story. Several years ago in the Seattle Special Olympics, 9 mentally and physically challenged runners gathered at the starting line of the 100-yard dash. When the gun went off, all of them started off running. One of them, a little boy, slipped, stumbled, and fell down and started crying. When the other runners heard him crying, all of them, every one of them slowed down and then turned around and went back to where he was. And they all picked him up, and then all 9 of them linked arms together and then walked towards the finish line together. I imagine that there was not a dry eye in that crowd as they watched this group of kids, this group of mentally and physically challenged kids. They watched them display the real true meaning of greatness and the real true meaning of success. Real greatness, true success, as you know, is not about winning a race, but rather it's about helping others win the race along with you. The secret to living is giving. And so, Jen, real quick, do you see some numbers in the chat box?
Oh my goodness. It was scrolling so fast. I'm just like, wow, you guys are amazing. I am so impressed. And let me tell you why. I have a heart for nonprofits. I actually involved with many, and I'm also on a board of directors of a few. And so just seeing the amount of years you have dedicated to this organization is just amazing. 17 years, Bill Stark, 17 years, Tim, 5 years, Ash, 7 years. I mean, even Holly said my youngest son and I are both heart warriors and truly desire helping others to heal and give. Lynn Beringer, 27 years. Wow. So impressive. And Gene Fulton, 30 years. I don't know if there's Daniel Moravec, 26 years, Richard Sylvia, 2 years.
Yes.
Fred Sparling, 16 years. So, I mean, the list goes on and on. I'm just incredibly impressed with all of you.
Awesome. And Jen, you know, I think about that. I think about how each one of them is creating a very powerful legacy, you know, through their service, through the way that they're giving, you know, they're creating a powerful legacy. You know, I think about a few years ago, back in 2016, my father passed away due to heart issues. And, you know, when he passed away and I reflected on his life, I realized that the beauty of his legacy overshadowed the sadness of his departure, because my father was a man that was a true giver, you know, and I think about the contribution that he's made to my life. You know, when I was growing up, for example, when I was growing up, I tried to play various sports, basketball, football, track, and I was terrible at all of them. And although many of the spectators would look down on me and or feel sorry for me, I never felt embarrassed or ashamed, because among all the spectators, there was one spectator, my dad, who was always in the stands watching and sincerely happy to see that I was doing my best. You see, over and over and over again, Dad taught me the concept that as long as you have done your best, then you have won. So despite the lack of sincere encouragement from team members and other spectators, I remain encouraged and inspired and motivated about getting on the playing field and doing my best. You see, Dad instilled within me an unshakable courage to try. And that courage to try has helped me to go much further than I ever thought I could go. I was labeled a slow learner when I was in school, but yet I kept studying and I became a professional. I was picked on by bullies, but I kept feeding my faith, and over time, those experiences started to build me up rather than to tear me down. I was considered to be unattractive, ugly, because of a skin situation I had when I was a teenager. When I was a teenager, I had a severe case of acne all over my face as well as my back. And I was considered to be ugly, but I kept admiring my inner beauty. I kept appreciating my inner beauty. And over time, I began to realize that it really doesn't matter what other people call you. What really matters is what you call yourself. What other people think about you is not important. But what you think about yourself means everything. Because think about this. Technically, other people's words can never harm you. Technically, other people's words can never harm you. But it's your own words that can kill you. If you agree, say yes in the chat box. If you agree, say yes in the chat box. Other people's words can never harm you, but it's your own words that can kill you. So really, it's your own words, your own thoughts that you have to really guard and protect. It's your own words, your own thoughts that you have to really watch out for. Because other people's words, other people's thoughts can never harm you, but it's your own words, your own thoughts that can kill you. You know, there's an old African saying that goes, if there is no enemy on the inside, then the enemies on the outside cannot harm you. I love that. If there is no enemy on the inside, then the enemies on the outside cannot harm you. So as long as we maintain positive, healthy emotions on the inside, then the negativity that surrounds us cannot touch us. So I know that Dad's legacy will always be in my heart. And wherever I go, wherever I am, I know that Dad is always in the stands. And you see, the legacy that Dad left to me, you know, the impact, the contribution that Dad has made in my life, it has driven me to want to make the same type of contribution in the lives of others. I want you to do something. Please do something for me. Please type into the chat box, who would you say is one of the people in your life that has made a huge contribution? It might be a father, it might be a mother, or it might be a grandmother, it might be a grandfather, it might be a friend, it might be a teacher, it might be another Mended Hearts volunteer. Please type into the chat box, who is one of the people in your life that has made a huge positive difference on your life? Who has encouraged you? And has their encouragement driven, is that one of the reasons why you're so driven to give to others? Please type that in the chat box. Let's be interactive. You know, it's amazing, amazing, amazing. So now, here's what I like to do. I'd like to turn it over to Jen, and she's going to lead us through our next discussion.
Yes. So again, you have great answers. I love that many of you listed family and listed, you know, mother, father, husband, wife, and sometimes your own children or grandchildren. It's just beautiful to see. It tells me that you are all very blessed to be in loving families that are close and wanting to support one another. I did see from John, you listed Vince Lombardi. I thought that was really awesome, very inspiring. This is a football. And I actually have one of his books. So I was like really tickled to see Vince Lombardi as one of the people that inspired you. So let me just see if anybody else has anything that they added. Andrea said her best friend and husband, Larry. Walter said his mother, he's the oldest of 8, and she supported all of us, especially after Dad died. Wow, your mother is amazing. One person, Verly, I don't know if I said your name right, said, one person I worked with 45 years. Wow, I just love this because it just shows me how much love that you all have within your lives. And going back to the story that we hear about that negative environment, one of the things I think that is very evident in your guys' answers in the chat is that you have this amazing ability to surround yourself with love. And the fact that you are volunteers and that you are here tells me you are all very giving spirits and wonderful people who want to give back and enrich other people's lives. And so, you know, we tend to sometimes when we get down, we're not perfect. But it really inspires me to show me that through your answers, that you're able to overcome these obstacles. You're able to overcome these challenges that you've encountered through, you know, family news that might have shook you guys, and you're here though. And so when I think about that negativity and that negative talk that's always between our ears, that is the place that's the most dangerous. But one thing that I love that I've seen that's very, very evident in all of you is that you have chosen to be a victor and not a victim. A victor and not a victim. And that is so huge, because think about it, especially in the times that we're in this world, is so easy to say, well, you know, COVID, and oh my gosh, the stimulus check, and well, you know, I lost my job. And those are very natural feelings, and I'm not discrediting that, but we can either choose to live in that negative mindset and stay there, or we can choose to, how am I going to overcome this? How can I do my best despite what is happening? And that's what you guys are. You have chosen, despite adversity, despite any negative talk, despite what's happening in the world today and even within your homes, that you are here tonight on a webinar where you could have been watching something on TV. You are here. And that is proof positive that you are all amazing people and that you have made an intentional choice to be victors and not victims. So thank you so much again for being here. And so let's close it out with Lance. He's going to come back with a last section. And without further ado, let's bring it back to you, Lance.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you guys for being here. Yes, you know, I think about this. I think about in life, all of us have to become one of three things: a potato, an egg, or a coffee bean. You place a potato in the hot boiling water, what happens to it? The hot water will change the potato, right, into becoming soft, right? You place an egg in the hot boiling water, what happens to it? The hot water will change the inside of the egg into becoming hard. But if you place a coffee bean into hot boiling water, what happens? The hot water does not change the coffee bean, but rather the coffee bean changes the hot water. So likewise, as we go through hot water in our lives, meaning as we go through problems and struggles and challenges and adversity, as we go through hot water, we don't have to allow the hot water to change us into something hard and angry, nor soft and weak, but rather we can change the hot water into opportunities to learn and grow stronger. Because really every struggle, every challenge, every form of hot water is really an opportunity to learn and grow stronger. You know, because as we mentioned before, our problems are just personal development exercises that are designed to prepare us to achieve our purpose and our destiny in life. You know, I think about that, and I think about how it's so very important to keep that mindset and to be able to brush off the negative mindsets and to replace them with the positive mindsets. You know, I think about, there's a saying about how, you know, although we cannot always prevent birds from landing on our heads, we don't have to allow those birds to build a nest. We can brush the birds off our head. You know, research studies have shown that on average, around 60,000 thoughts come through our minds each and every day. 60,000 thoughts. That's a lot of thoughts. And of course, not all of those thoughts are positive and healthy thoughts, right? Even if you are a very positive and healthy person, you have to admit that a portion of your thoughts are negative thoughts, unhealthy thoughts, weasels that we must drop. So every day, let's drop the weasels. Because remember, either we drop the weasels or the weasels will drop us, right? Let's drop the weasels. Let's let go of the negativity. Now I think about the story about two frogs that fall into a bucket of milk. And at first, both of them are paddling, kicking, trying to come out of the bucket. And birds of discouragement land on their heads. And one of the frogs does not brush those birds off of his head. So he allows that discouragement to build a nest in his mind. So thoughts like, I'm hopeless, I'll never be able to make it out of this. He allows negativity to build in his mind. And you know, if you allow negativity to stay in your mind, it will eventually drag you down. So that frog, he gets discouraged, he just stops paddling, he drowns and dies. But the other frog keeps on paddling, kicking. And he keeps brushing the negative birds off of his head by replacing those negative thoughts with positive thoughts. Positive thoughts like winners never quit and quitters never win. Positive thoughts like persistence overrides resistance. And with that positive attitude, he keeps going. And the milk starts to churn into cream, and the cream starts to churn into butter. And on the solid butter, he's able to bounce out of the bucket. And it's amazing because think about it. Those two frogs were in the same exact negative situation, but the only difference was their perspective, their mindset. As I close, I want to close with one final story. I'm going to save this for last. One final story. It's another story about frogs. Yes, I love frog stories. Another story about frogs. It's a story about a group of frogs traveling in the woods. Two of them fall down into a deep pit and begin jumping, trying to get out of the pit. All the other frogs gather around the pit, and when they see how deep the pit is, they begin to tell those two frogs that they're as good as dead. They tell them the pit is too deep. They tell them they're hopeless. They tell them they should just lie down and die. One of the two frogs in the pit takes heed to what the other frogs are saying. He listens to all that negativity, and he just gives up. He lies down and dies. But the other frog keeps on jumping and jumping and jumping. The crowd of frogs outside of the pit continue to yell at him words of discouragement. You're hopeless. This pit is too deep. Just lie down and die. You'll never be able to make it out of this. That frog, he doesn't stop. Keeps on jumping and jumping and jumping. And finally, he makes it out of the pit. Everybody was surprised. And then they discovered that he was hearing impaired. He was unable to hear all those words of discouragement. In fact, when he was in the pit, although he could not hear what they were saying, he could see all of their body language, and he misinterpreted their body language. He thought that they were trying to encourage him the entire time. Can you imagine that? The crowd was looking down on him, yelling at him, you're hopeless. This pit is too deep. Just lie down and die. And he's like, okay, guys, I'm coming. I'm coming. It's a cute story, but please don't miss the moral of the story. The moral of the story is this. It really doesn't matter so much what circumstances we're in. What matters more is our perspective, our mindset, the way that we are analyzing the situation, the way that we are interpreting the situation, the narrative that we have going on in our minds. And so I just want to encourage you that as we go through life, let's always keep that in mind, to always drop the weasels, always let go of the negative thought patterns and replace it with positive thought patterns. Because really, what really impacts our lives are the perspectives that we choose to take. And really, our adversity is our advantage to comfort and inspire others who are going through similar situations. If I had to summarize this whole program, I would summarize it this way. Let's turn our problems into power by controlling the perspectives in which we view the situations of our life. You know, as I close, I like to close with this final thought. Life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. Life is about learning how to dance in the rain. Let's always dance in the rain. You know, I have a special treat for everyone. Special treat. Everyone, if you could stand up where you are, if you could stand, or even at your seat, that's fine. But please play full out. I want to play with you this song. I want to play this song for you. I want, just for like a minute or so, I want us all to dance along, all right? So everyone, please dance with me. Dance with me. Here we go. Hold on. All right, here we go. Yes. It might seem crazy clap it out. What I'm about to say. Yes. Up and down like this. Up, down. Up. Yes. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because four corners like this. Clap along if you. Clap along if you feel happiness is the truth. Side to side. Clap along if you want happiness is you. Up and down. Clap along if you feel that's what you want to do. Awesome. Give yourselves a round of applause. Awesome. All right, so now here's what I'm gonna do. Wait, hold on one moment. Let me stop this. Hold on. Okay, now, what I want to do as our final group discussion, I'm going to turn it over to Jen, and then we're going to turn it over back to Andrea, all right? So final group discussion.
Wow, I hope you guys love the way that Lance closed that out. And I was just looking at the chat. I want to just repeat what some of you guys have said, that it's your Sam said happy dance. Eric said, cause I'm happy. Ariel even mentioned, Lance, you have an awesome attitude, sir. Catherine said, love this song. The principal at the school I work at plays this every Friday. So perfect. You got an early preview of it before Friday. So I'm just thrilled to see that you are all happy now. Not that you weren't already, but that the song even just, intensified it. And so, we heard all these stories of frogs and alligators and, puppies. And it's all these great metaphors that teach us about perspective, how we are approaching life, how do we look at the way that we're showing up in this world. And I just want to, just bring it all together that never doubt your greatness, no matter what is happening in your current circumstances, that you always will find the joy and contentment in any present situation that you're in. And that you have already proven that to yourselves, that you have already overcome that, because you all are here for a reason. You will all have gone through very difficult times. So that's already proof positive that you have that ability to do that. And so this organization, Mended Hearts, is so fortunate to have each and every one of you amazing attitude, amazing energy, just amazing hearts, literally and figuratively. And it's just been such a great honor to just see you all come together and just resonate with the stories and the lessons, and just looking forward to seeing what you're all going to do in this coming, in the coming months, and what you all as an organization are going to be able to do for so many people. So, just thank you for being here. I just think that you all resonated so well with each and every story, and you had such positive feedback. So thank you all for participating.
And real quick, I forgot to mention, want to also say thank you so much for bringing me in. I want to, send a special shout out to the planning team, Mandy and Andrea and Jody and Katrina and Kay and Lisa and George, the staff. And I just really appreciate you guys bringing us in. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of the afternoon or evening, depending on where you're watching from.
Thank you guys so much. How fun. It was so exciting to really be able to spend this time with you. So we really appreciate it. Before we leave, I am going to leave you guys with a really quick note about tomorrow. You can join us. Don't forget, I don't think it's going to be quite as fun, but hopefully we can keep the power and the energy and everything fun tomorrow. Leadership training starts tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern time with session number 1. And then we have session number 2 tomorrow evening from 4 to 6. But make sure you join us. Lance and Jen, we can't thank you enough for being here with us. It has been fantastic, and we have loved every minute of it. So thank you all for joining. And everybody have a great night, and we will see you tomorrow.